Masters, a 2007 graduate of Central High School and almost a graduate of Texas A&M University. Close to it.
One semester.
So I'd say very close to being a graduate. And your major is in wildlife management?
I study wildlife management.
Okay. And you have said you're not sure what you plan to do with that major, but what we're here to talk about is the amazing experience you had that very few people in our world would ever have the guts to do, and yet wish we had the guts to get on a horse and go how many thousand miles from where to Canada?
We started our trip close to Santa Fe, north of Santa Fe, on May 20th, and we rode paralleling the Continental Divide through national forests, national parks, wilderness areas, state land, and Bureau of Land Management land, through New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana to the Canadian border. It took us 4 months and almost 2,000 miles.
And how many were with you?
Me and 2 other guys.
And you all made it?
Yes.
And you all have stories to tell?
Pretty good ones, some of them.
Your story was beautifully told and illustrated through photographs in a magazine, and that's really, besides from your great parents, how I knew the story. Tell our audience the name of that magazine.
Western Horseman magazine wrote an article.
And what month was that? I can't remember. I have that magazine.
That was the March 2011 issue.
And the Standard Times covered that, your trip.
Yes.
Because and maybe you're still too close and too young to realize what you accomplished. But there are many of us who enjoy doing things that a lot of other people wouldn't necessarily step out and do. And yet you, as a young person, planned extensive planning and fulfilled a dream. Go back for us, Ben, when you started thinking about it and all that went into the planning of that trip.
The beginning of the planning was a summer that I spent in Colorado shortly after I graduated from Central. I worked for a guide in northern Colorado doing pack trips around Rocky Mountain National Park. And I traveled a lot through the area, and that was the start of an addiction that I have to this day with maps. I love maps. And I found a route all the way through Colorado, a continuous route from the southern edge to the northern edge of a nonstop trail that was almost all through national forests and wilderness areas and national parks, and no road time. And me and another guy thought about doing it, a guy that I worked with there in Colorado, and that was the spawn of the idea. And then I recruited a friend of mine from Texas A&M, and we just extended it from just the state of Colorado to include New Mexico, Wyoming, and Montana.
And were you, once you left Colorado, also on trails, or did you also have to have some road time?
No, about 85% of our trip was spent on a national forest trail, a horse or pedestrian trail only, and about 10% of the trip was spent on a small 2-track or small logging road. And we did have to do a little bit of time on pavement or a more used caliche type road, just mainly to get from one wilderness area to the next to go through on our route. But we limited the amount of time on roads as best as we could.
All right. let's go back just a little bit, because you spent much of your childhood before your family moved to San Angelo and Amarillo. I know your parents don't have horses here. How did you get to be so knowledgeable about horses that you could spend 4 months on a horse?
Well, the same person that I went to Colorado with, the deal I cut with him was that I wouldn't get paid until I proved myself, and he taught me the basics of how to train horses and how to use them in the mountains, and how to ride and do pack trips and treat your horse fair and not sore them up and be able to go for a long distance and maintain your stock in good quality.
So you had to get a horse.
We did, and unfortunately we didn't have any money to do the trip with, so we had to get creative, and we adopted some Mustangs from the Bureau of Land Management, and they turned out really good. They were difficult to train, but they were very good animals.
Someday when you're telling your children this story, do you realize now that you've done that, you're going to have to give your children the same opportunity to do something that had a lot of risk to it? What were the greatest risks besides the ones that are obvious to me?
The biggest risks, the biggest challenges was taking care of the horses, because you're covering 25 miles a day, and every step of it's through the Rocky Mountains, and it's got rocks. It has a lot of different dangers, and getting a small thing such as a foot abscess could be a potential reason that would lame a horse, and you'd have to replace it. Keeping the animals safe was a big priority that we had. And we did. We had to send 3 horses home because they had injuries. We didn't want to push them. Luckily, we didn't lose any animals. And I think the big reason for that is because we used Mustangs. They were very tough, very hardy, and very sure-footed.
Now, tell us what is described in the magazine about how you arranged for supplies along the way.
Well, our trip was 2,000 miles long, and we broke it down into 12 different sections that were anywhere from 7 to about 15 days. And at the beginning and end of each segment, we would go into a post office where I had pre-made boxes that had basic supplies, food and batteries and water filtration and the necessities for the next period of time until we came to the next post office. And that was key. My mom would send it ahead of us, so all we'd have to do was go into town, pick up our gear, and then we could continue on our way without having to spend a lot of time shopping for gear.
And food for your animals.
Food for the horses, it's tough to beat the mountain grass that we find up there. It was unbelievable grazing. Actually, our horses finished, and they were in excellent shape. They were very fit, and we watched them careful. We never did let them get too skinny and lose fitness on us.
Did you keep a diary?
I did.
Had you ever kept a diary before?
Yes.
So what do you hope to do with that diary and the information that you recorded? Were you honest in your diary about how you felt a particular day?
Well, my diary wasn't so much about my emotions as it was August 12th. We traveled 22 miles from point A to point B along this route, and this was the encounters that we had. I didn't really dive into emotions too much.
Oh, this has been a bad day?
No, we didn't have any bad days.
What were if you had to pick one memory along the way, good memory, what would it be? Sticks out in my mind very clearly.
We were in the Bob Marshall Wilderness Complex, which is in northern Montana. And it's the largest wilderness complex in the lower 48. It's huge. It's like 7 million acres. And we traveled 220 miles without crossing a road. We saw like maybe 5 or 6 people. It was just unbelievable scenery. The only problem was that the day we entered it, it started to rain, and it did not stop for the next 12 days. It alternated between rain and sleet and snow, and we would get completely soaked to the bone in the daytime, and at nighttime all of our stuff would freeze. And the last day we were in there, the sun broke out, and it was just beautiful, and everything was nice, and I got warm, and I'll never forget how great that felt.
And you will appreciate it forever more dryness?
Yeah, being dry is nice.
How do you think you are a different person for experiencing and surviving that?
Well, I think it taught me a lot about planning and patience. Those are 2 very important things.
Did you plan well?
I did. I was in charge of all the logistics for the trip, and we did not get lost once, and we did not run out of supplies.
I would say that's a success. Where could you have done better?
Well, actually, the trip went really smoothly. We did have a couple mishaps as far as horse injuries go that we could have prevented through better planning. But for the most part, it went very smoothly. The trip did.
When you're traveling along with 2 other people without distractions of the world, really, except for the beautiful area you were through, do you talk a lot, or were there more, if you put it on a scale, was there more silence time or more interaction between you 3?
Much more silence time.
At the end of the day, would you debrief with each other or not?
Oh, absolutely. At the end of the day, we'd get out the map and say, all right, here we are. Here's what we're going to do. For the next day, we have different options on how far we're going to go, where we're going to camp, and, are we going to stop and fish along the way, or hang out here, or should we rest here for a day? There was a team effort the whole time.
Did you come back better friends than you left?
Absolutely.
Would any of the 3 of you do something that rigorous together again?
Yes, we're thinking about doing it again, but doing it a little bit further and a little bit more difficult.
And what do you mean further?
Last time we cheated a little bit. We didn't go through the southern part of New Mexico, and we're thinking about going completely border to border and doing some sort of charity ride or a fundraising ride.
Have you picked what you would do that fundraising for?
Yes. Right now, it's kind of at the beginning of this idea, but we'd like to do a similar trip to a Walk for the Cure where people raise money for, say, every mile that we travel. And we would like to do it for raising awareness for wilderness areas, and also areas without roads that are found up in the mountains or anywhere really. And we're looking at a couple different organizations to send out our message to their members to support us, and then in return the funds that we raise would go back into that conservation organization in order for them to invest that into some project that has wilderness ideals.
Well, Ben, I think it's would be great, and I know I would be interested, and I'm sure people in our audience, if when you get ready to do that, if you would come back and give us the opportunity to invest in an alumni of SAISD that is doing something this exciting and something we all wish we could at the very least vicariously ride along.
Well, I appreciate that.
I mean that sincerely, and if you don't, shame on you, because you have a captive audience here. Would you expand to more people, or are y'all pretty happy with the 3 of you that went?
No, I'd like to get a good photographer to come along as well as a good outdoor rider. Writer, yes.
Okay.
Pen and paper.
Okay. And your outdoor writer what would you hope they could capture more than what you did in your diary?
Well, I'm not very good at putting down emotions or stories of drama. I'm pretty set in my ways, and that what I write is, just fact. I don't tell a story well, and I'd like for a writer to come along to have more of a personal side of writing stuff down than what I can do.
Well, I know that there are people like your mother that would enjoy hearing those stories instead of just how many miles you went that particular day, to give the anecdotal side to this these amazing goals you've set for yourself. So at least 2 more people. Did you all grow to be good friends, or was it more we accomplished a goal together?
Well, we didn't have a choice. We had to rely on each other all day, every day, and we didn't have a choice of whether or not we could cooperate or get along. We had the safety of our animals that we had to worry about. So, bickering and fighting definitely happened, but in the end, we definitely had to work as a team the whole way. So we didn't hold grudges. We just didn't have room for not being friends.
Are all of the other 2 young men, what are they doing now? Are they in school like you?
No, one of them's back up in Vermont, working, doing maple syrup stuff. I know, how stereotyping is that? And then the other guy's in Australia, working on a polo ranch.
My goodness. And you're at Texas A&M going to finish up?
I do it, well, not right now. In the springtime, I go to school.
Okay. You picked your path based on an already determined set of trails so that you didn't have to get permission to go through people's land, or at least that had something to do with your choice. Are there other trails or paths like that down the road you would hope to be able to conquer?
Well, I don't know if conquer's the right word.
I would say you
Is
conquered.
there more? Are there other places that I'd like to go and visit? Absolutely. The Continental Divide Trail, which is what we did pretty much, is an awesome one. There's also the Appalachian Trail, which is in the eastern part of the United States, and it's a big one. I think it's almost 4,000 miles. And then the Pacific Crest Trail, California, stretching north to Canada. That's a really big one too. I think it's about 2,000 miles.
The Appalachian one, though, is much more, or at least has sections that are much more congested. Your trail was not congested at all.
No, we didn't see very many people.
So the scenery and accomplishing the goal, were those 2 of the main reasons you would do something like this?
Really and truly, a big reason why we did it was just to get an appreciation for how much awesome land we have. There is, people don't realize it, but there's 773 million acres of public land that just doesn't get used that much. It was almost kind of depressing how much land we would pass through that was available to everybody, and there really wasn't that many people utilizing it. And I'm not going to say that was one of the reasons why we did it, but one of the side benefits was that we could possibly inspire somebody to get out and get off the couch and go out and take a look up in the mountains. There's some just incredible landscapes up there that it's yours, it's your land. Go out and enjoy it.
Well, Ben, I can't tell you how much I admire someone who can plan something, and you say there weren't many surprises, and then you all so valued the land and your animals. I wish that more, I hope that your writer and your photographer that you take on your next one with the stories, because you know, Ben, stories grab people. And probably as much as the pictures do, will inspire others to go and do even short pieces of the places that you have been. You wouldn't have to bite off a 2,000-mile chunk to get a taste of the beauty and accomplishment that you accomplished. You saw extremes in weather, isn't that what the article? And so do you prefer hot or freezing?
I like 45 degrees and sunny.
Oh,
with
you
no
do?
wind. That's my preferred.
So how many of your 4 months did you have that?
Quite a bit. No, the mountains, summer in the mountains is awesome. You know, lows in the 20s at nighttime, and it gets up to about 65. And
So would you change the equipment gear that you took on your next one? Or did you hit the bullseye this time?
no, our gear was good. We kept it really light. Didn't take that much stuff, and traveling light is the way to go on a trip like that.
Even though it will all get wet and freeze.
Yeah, well, we just had to do the trip on a budget, so we didn't have the best clothing that was possible, but we did fine.
Wow. Okay, you are going to agree to come back when you're ready and let us know what your plan is, because you're the planner, and let us know if we're able to, how we can contribute to your cause.
Great. That'd be
Okay,
fantastic.
Ben, we're ready. Do you know when you hope to do this?
I would like to do it between May and October 2013.
Okay, we'll be ready for you. Thank you so much. You've inspired us
Oh,
to do a little piece of your 2000.
well, I hope so.
Thank you so much.